Yeah.
Miracles come while we in the fight. Don't give up and hold him tight. You will have a visible battle scar, but never forget who you are and fight, fight, fight.
Hello, and welcome to Embracing the Fight. I am Erica Lamar, your digital creator and host. Each time I come on, I tell you why I started embracing the fight. And it seems like that meaning becomes more and more real each day. Mainly because I just had a bit of a health scare on last week. You know, if you had the opportunity to watch or to listen to what exactly happened, then you'll understand what I mean. So last week, I thought that I was having a heart attack, but right now they're trying to narrow it down to my gallbladder. And I'll be seeing a series of doctors this week. I won't see the first one, I think, until Thursday, and then I have another doctor visit on Friday as well. However, you know, I feel great. But the thing is, it's amazing to me that people will say some of the most, insensitive things, or they won't say, anything at all. I understand, there's HIPAA laws and things out there, and people want to know, that is, if they care about you, if they're nosy, if they're just glad it's not them, they want to know, what's going on in your life. Albeit they may want to pray for you, they may want to give you something to help you, get through this financially, because when you have mounting medical bills, those are things that you don't plan. Of course, if you have an emergency fund, you don't have to worry about that. If you have savings, you don't have to worry about that. But folks who don't have that sort of thing, then you should consider, getting some type of supplemental insurance. But if you can't afford supplemental insurance, then you have to, I guess, hope for the kindness of others, but you can't plan on the kindness of others. So one of the things that I want to talk about today is being unapologetically you. So I'm saying that because I saw a lot of people around me for who they really were. For instance, when I was away from work, several people that worked with me, they did reach out to me to see, how I was doing. And they asked if there was anything, that they could do. They were praying for me. But then there were some people that were just going behind the scenes asking, well, what's wrong with her now? And, what's going on here and what's going on there. And then when they would see me, they didn't even say, welcome back, or it's good to see you. I'm glad that, you're well. I'm glad that you're at work. You know why? Because they really don't care. So I learned that I can't look, for that type of thing from people, because that'd be like me expecting people to be like me. So when I have friends or I have family or people that I work with, when they're not well, I'll reach out to them, or I'll send them a card, or like at work, I will collect, money for different things, because I understand, what it takes in order for a person to get through, a difficult time. But a lot of people, like I said, are not that way. So when people start to look at you differently because you have an illness, because you've been sick, because you've been out, because you're dealing with things mentally, remember this: they don't pay your bills. They don't control your health care. 9 times out of 10, they don't live with you. So in other words, they're totally unimportant to your process. What you need to focus on is you getting better, both mentally and physically, and increasing your faith, speaking things as though they are so. For instance, yes, I'm telling you that I'm going to all these different doctor visits, but at the same time, I'm saying that my body is healed. I'm saying that I don't have, any issues. So what I've done is I've changed my diet because faith without works is dead. So I'm not eating anything that's greasy. I am not having any fried foods, no chocolate, no ice cream, no soda, none of that sort of stuff. I have been eating fruits, vegetables, um, all plant-based, things because I want to clear my gallbladder. I want to clear my system. I want my liver to function, at its optimal ability. And the only way that you can get your body to function at its optimal ability is by giving it the proper fuel. You can't feed it, any and everything and expect great things from it. Now, I had that misconception, when I was in college because I played college tennis. I was running 4 or 5 miles plus a day on the tennis court, off the tennis court. Heck, I was running from South Carolina State down to Edisto Gardens and back. And sometimes I run from Orangeburg to Edisto, the city, and back. And then I go eat, hamburger and fries and pizza and ice cream and soda all in one sitting because I will be so hungry and I will eat it so quick that I didn't even stop to think, man, how many calories was that I just took in? But it didn't matter to me because I was running it all off. I was lifting it all off. I was playing tennis and burning it all off. Now, my little 45-year-old self, I'm sitting here, possibly with the same mentality, not 100%, just partially, because I still feel like, if I go play tennis, that I could reward myself, right? But never sitting and thinking about the fact that I've been rewarding myself, all week when I'm not exercising, when I'm not, doing the right thing. So now it's time for me to step back, look at what I'm eating, look at how it's truly impacting my body and making a change. So one of the other things that I had the opportunity to do when I was in the hospital, it was really neat. They had an iPad. The iPad had all of my lab results on there. So, I am a STEM graduate. I have a dual degree in electrical engineering and physics. And even though I don't do anything electrical anymore, I probably wipe your house, burn your house down, so don't ask me to do anything electrical. That is not my thing anymore. But I'm sure if I were to pick it back up, it would, come like clockwork. It would be no issue. But me being, of a science background, I said, let me look, at these lab results and then let me Google and see what these things mean. What should the ranges be? So I started looking first, at my liver. There's AST and ASL enzymes that describe your liver function, and there's a ratio that should be 1, or less. The higher the ratio, the more toxins, that your liver is basically producing. So I found that I have a fatty liver. And I'm sitting here going, how in the heck do you get a fatty liver? It's not because, you're a fat person or anything like that. That has nothing to do with it. So I started looking to try to figure out what caused that. It was like alcohol. I don't drink alcohol at all. And then there were certain types of medicines that you take, and I don't take any like antidepressants or anything of that nature. So that scratched those 2 things out. So the next 2 things were basically your weight and what you're actually intaking. So I started looking at all the different foods that cause these levels to increase. And the majority of them were high in sugar. They were high in cholesterol. They were high in fat. And, they were high in taste. So everything that tastes good is not necessarily, good for you. So I said, let me just commit to, eating right. So let's be honest, I was laying in the hospital. Prior to going to the hospital, I went to see my internal medicine physician, and I got on the scale. And the nurse, of course, I'm just gonna throw this out here as a disclaimer. I did have on steel toe boots, and you know that those things weigh a whole lot. I still had on all my clothes, so that weighs a lot too because I wear a uniform. When I go to work, had on my glasses, like they they weigh something too, right? And I had something in my hair, but besides all that, I still got on the scale, and the scale said 262 pounds. I was like, you got to be kidding me. Because I have been playing tennis, I have been walking, I have been trying to, monitor and increase my steps. I even got this watch to sit and say, okay, what's my blood pressure? What's my heart rate? How am I sleeping? I started monitoring all these things, but I was only monitoring the bad stuff. I was looking at my baseline, in other words, and my baseline is my starting point. So if you remember a few months back, I was saying, I'm exercising. I had gotten down to like, 242, 243, something of that nature. Well, anyway, while laying in the hospital, the first 2 days, they starved me to death, of course, because there were a lot of tests they had to run. And if they had to do surgery, of course, I couldn't eat anything because, once you go into anesthesia, if you have something in your stomach, there's a possibility that you could throw it up. And if you do, it could get in your lungs and then you can end up getting pneumonia. And all these things can happen. You could die. So you don't, eat prior to surgery. They let you have a little sip of water and your medication, but that's it. So they were giving me, all my medication except for my high blood pressure medication. And that had me thinking, oh, I don't need it. I don't need it. But that's not the case either. Because when I got ready to leave, the hospital, my blood pressure had to be a certain, rate. And I don't know if it was because I was thinking about, oh, I gotta go home, I gotta do this, I gotta do that, because life didn't wait on me while I was in hospital. There were so many other things that were going on that I knew I had to take care of when I got out of hospital. And that was part of the reason why I was thinking maybe, I was having a heart attack, because I have a whole lot, that's going on right now. There's so many changes that I'm making in my life, but I know that I have to take a moment to pat myself on the back, to give myself some grace, to take a little moment, for some peace, because otherwise I will drive myself nuts. And I refuse, to do that. I have to look at all the good that I've done and all the great things that have happened, in my life, and just give thanks. I can't look at anything and say, anything was an absolute failure. Well, maybe just one thing. And if you've been watching, you know exactly what that one thing is. But I know that in the future, that failure is going to become a huge success, because I know exactly what I don't want, and I know exactly what I want, accept. And you have to be like that. You have to live unapologetically. So going back, to what I was saying, I had gotten on a scale, previously, and it was in the 240s. Well, not eating 2 days and then eating a fat-free diet, at the hospital. When I got home, the scale said 255. So I'm like, okay, is that really what I weigh? Because the 262 was with, all the clothes and the boots and, all this other stuff on. So I said, wait a minute, give me a couple of days and then I'll get on scale again, even though scale is not necessarily your best friend. However, when I cut out all the things that I mentioned earlier, the fried foods, the sweets, the extra fatty meals, and I switched it for vegetables, fruit, hummus, tofu, wheat-based products, lots of water, juice without sugar, oat milk, and I started increasing my steps. I got on the scale this morning and the scale said 242. So you tell me, how in the world do you lose 20 pounds? Let's just say 6 of them were, from the clothing and the shoes. So how do you lose 14 pounds in such a short span by just changing, what you eat? You know what it is? I was eating absolutely nothing but garbage. I wasn't taking the time to feed my body what it needed to be fed. So in that, I realized that what I put in is what I was getting out. And that's why I was getting sick. That's why I was having all these issues. So if you think about it, cancer is a toxin. And I've had cancer twice in my life. And each time, the more I think about it, if you go back in time, I wasn't eating my very best. I wasn't cleansing my body. So going forward, I'm going to continue to do this. And you can watch, me as I go through this process. Because I don't ever want to feel like I felt last Monday. That was one of the scariest moments in my life. The first thing I thought about was, what if my nephew comes home and finds me laid out on the floor and I'm gone? How will he handle this? I also thought about the fact that my parents, they're sitting at home, they get a call and they say that your daughter's gone. And it's all because of my selfish eating habits, because I want things quick, things that taste good, and things that, just were really easy. Sure, I can cook. Sure, I can prepare meals. I can, sit down and say, okay, I'm going to do meal planning and set my meals up for a week. But I just wasn't giving myself the time to do it. I was trying to do so many other things to help so many other people. And I started thinking about it. It's like those same people, you don't even hear from them anymore. Or if you hear from them, they're trying to get something else from you. They don't necessarily know how to ask for it because they've already taken so much from you and haven't returned it, that they have to figure out a way to say those things to you, to soften your heart, to get you to give more of them. But what happens when you have nothing to give? So that's the point that I'm at. I have absolutely nothing to give but love. I can only give you my love. And if my love isn't enough, then I'm not it for you. Just understand that you have to say this out loud. You have to proclaim this for yourself. Otherwise, those people who are givers out there, you're going to attract nothing but takers until you cut those takers off. And the only way you cut them off is live unapologetically. Speak your truth. Do what's necessary to keep yourself healthy. Spend time loving on you, eating right, exercising, filling yourself up with the word of God. Sure, you have these people that's out there that, they're constantly, talking about, sins and, all these different things. And for some reason, people put a greater emphasis on sexual sins than they do of any other sin. A sin is a sin is a sin. Like for me, gluttony. Like if I were to eat normal portions of bad food, I probably would lose weight still. But because I eat so much of the bad food and I keep saying, I got time, I could do this, I can handle this, I could take care of this, because I've always been able to snap back, into a size that I want to get into. But that has not been the case. That's all in my head if I think that, because at least for the past 5-6 years, it's been more of a struggle to try to lose this additional weight. However, I know that I have to step away, step out, step back, and look at what I'm doing. And then I have to say, these are the goals that I want to reach. But you have to look at yourself, as a whole person, not just as someone who wants to lose weight. There are a lot of you that are out there that are parents. So you got little people, that depend on you. Some of you have jobs that a large amount of people, rely on you. So it's like you're an integral part of something. whatever it is, you need to show up as your very best self. Because if you don't, then either A, you're going to be replaced, B, you're going to be sick all the time and you won't be there anyway, or C, you'll die. So I'd rather you show up as your best self. So be unapologetic. So when folks call you and you know you've told yourself, I'm going to go for a 30-minute bike ride, just let that phone ring. Think about it. When we were young, we didn't have, well, we, people that were born in, the 70s and 80s, we didn't have cell phones, growing up. That wasn't our thing. You would reach us when we reached home. If you called us at home, some of us didn't even have answer machines, and we survived. So why do we have to be so connected to technology that we lose sight of ourselves? So if you've planned to go for a walk or a bike ride or a swim or just to go dance, to do something for yourself for an hour, heck, 2 hours, whatever the time limit, you should put do not disturb on your phone. And if people can't live without you for 2 hours, something is not right there. Now, I understand you have emergencies, and I understand that there are times that people need to be connected to you, but there is a time that you need to set aside just for yourself, just to feed yourself, and don't apologize for it. Just do it for you. Be grateful for you. Feed yourself. Love yourself. Regenerate, rejuvenate, refresh yourself. Because if you don't, who is going to take care of you? Sure, some of you out there probably have kids. You probably have family members that'll step in and help you. But what about those that don't? And you are pushing it to the limit every day to help someone else. That person I'm talking to, take some time for you. Because when the time comes that you can't take care of yourself, when the time runs out, you're only going to have to rely on someone else anyway. So live your life unapologetically. You'll be glad that you did. I'm not saying, go out there and be rude and nasty to everybody. I'm saying give yourself your just desserts. Take care of yourself. Spend time on yourself. I mean, whether you're building yourself for a business, whether you just want to learn some new things. Because every time you learn something, you cause your brain to work. So if you're not using your brain on a regular basis, think about what those brain cells are doing. They're becoming dormant. They can potentially die. So don't you want to keep those fresh too? And you don't want it to be stuck on just one specific subject or one specific thing or one specific person, because what happens when that subject, person, or specific thing goes away? Then that part of your brain can become depressed. You don't want to do that. You want to keep your brain firing and fresh on all cylinders. Well, in order to do that, you got to take some time for you. So I'm saying today, get your notebook out. Write down some things that you know that you should be doing for yourself. Some things that will help you grow physically, mentally, spiritually. And once you get those things down, set a date and a time for yourself. Date yourself. Do these things for you. And then a few months down the line, look back at it and see how much your life has improved. So if you think about it, when you water a flower and you give it plant food, miracle grow, sunlight, it flourishes. As long as you keep it in a dark room, if it's one of those plants that requires light, then it's going to die. So you have to feed yourself. You have to give yourself that sunlight. You have to give yourself the proper food. You have to exercise. You have to do all these things to flourish and grow. Now, Sure, yes, you do need to be around people every once in a while to feel the compassion and love of others. But if you don't feel the compassion and love of yourself, what's the point of being around others? Live unapologetically. Just live unapologetically. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Embracing the Fight. I am Erica Lamar, your digital creator and host. And I would like to thank you all for tuning in each and every week. And I ask that you take a moment to subscribe, like, and share each of these videos. Have an absolutely amazing day.